Man, what a great day to be an Eagle. One more time for the greatest team in America.
All right, Eagle Nation, welcome to a very special edition of GATA Talk, your favorite Georgia Southern podcast. I'm Matt, joined as always by Cody, and we have a very special guest today. He is your new voice of your Georgia Southern Eagles, Mr. Adam Young. Adam, thanks for joining us.
Welcome. Yeah, thanks for having me, guys. Appreciate you having me on.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, thank you for taking the time. I'm sure these last couple of weeks have been a whirlwind. You came from New Mexico State and Las Cruces, not only, getting adjusted to the new role and wrapping your head around things as, the 2026 Georgia Southern football season is right around the corner, but, also moving your family out to Statesboro. So how have the last, couple weeks, month been?
It's been a whirlwind. I've told a lot of people that. Drinking from a fire hose, that kind of stuff. And I knew it would be an adjustment, right? I mean, you're moving across the country, so it's not easy in that regard. But it's been very busy. Yeah. I feel like 2.5, 3 weeks, whatever it's been now, has felt like 2.5, 3 months. Just you're trying to pack as much that you possibly can into that short time frame. But feel good about where I'm at, where we're at as we get ready for the first broadcast coming up here in a couple of weeks. The family officially gets here next weekend, the day after the John Gruden event. They were actually in town last weekend for a couple of days, and my wife is a saint. She's doing all the hard stuff right now with the 3-year-old and packing up the house, and so they'll be out here next weekend for good. And looking forward to that. And they loved it out here. It's a good time to move a kid. Our son's 3 years old, so that's a perfect time. He kind of knows what's going on, but kind of doesn't.
Right.
But he does say Hail Southern. He can say that. He's consistently saying that. So he gets that part of it. But it's been awesome. Everybody's been unbelievably welcoming. You think you know a place, and then you get here and you see how cool it is and how many people care about this job, this place, this program, this athletics department. So that part of it has been amazing for sure.
Now, but before this process started, had you ever been to Georgia, to Statesboro, to the campus before?
I had never been to Statesboro. I had never been to Georgia for an extended period of time. I did a summer in North Carolina, straight out of college, doing summer collegiate wood bat league baseball.
Got it.
But I've moved pretty much all over the place. Originally from the Midwest, went out to the Southeast, right out of college, went back to the Midwest, went out to the Southwest where I had never been before, and now back to the Southeast. So, if you want to have success and reach high levels in this business, you have to move. You just have to. 1 or 2 of these jobs come open each year. When I say these jobs, Division I FBS jobs, sometimes 0.
Yeah.
This was a cycle this year where 2 of them came open, Washington and here. That was it. In some years, there's 0.
Yep.
And I know people have talked about the interest in this job in particular. There was a lot of interest. It was a national search. But I knew a lot about this place. Full disclosure, Danny and I have known each other for a long time.
Yeah.
I've been very familiar with the radio network here. I followed it close just because of how good of a job they've done going back to even Chris Blair when I was coming up in the business. Yep. So I'm very familiar with that. And this job was attractive for a variety of reasons.
Got it. Well, that answers my question of why this job, why Georgia Southern. But let's see. I mean, take me back to the beginning of, I read your bio and the press release the school put out and all that. It said you got started at 17 doing this.
Yeah.
Is that correct?
Yeah.
So I guess that answers the question of you kind of always knew that this is what you wanted to do.
I did. I knew I wanted to do this in middle school, but you don't know how to do it, right? You get to high school, and now a lot of younger broadcasters are starting in high school. It was actually the summer after my senior year of high school for me when I got my first reps on the air. And I was 17. I was covering the St. Louis Cardinals, believe it or not, in the St. Louis area. And, those 4 years in college, and I went to a smaller school, didn't have football, but I knew it was a place where I could get a lot of reps and just figure it out. Because you're not going to be good right away. You're going to be really bad. And you just have to do it. It's kind of like football players, right? You got to practice. And in this regard, you have to practice and get reps. So I did that for 4 years, put myself in a good position to have success, and then just grinded and climbed and had a really good situation at New Mexico State. Probably had one of the more unique jobs around the country. Was doing 7 sports,
Yeah,
kind
that's
of
a
was
lot. I
able to
saw
make
that.
my own schedule. I
Yeah.
was doing TV and radio. I basically had full control of our content. Whatever I wanted to do, we were doing. But so much of what I did there put me in position to get this job, because what Chris Davis was looking for, what Cam Brown, the GM, was looking for, was content. How can we
Yep.
storytell at a high level? And fortunately, I'd been doing that at New Mexico State for a while. So I had proof of performance, and I could, you know, tell my story, my vision for what I could bring to the table here. Doing the content piece was a big part of it. And that's a big part of why I was able to get hired for this job.
Got it. No, that's super interesting because, I mean, obviously Danny did a great job with not just like, the flight reports, but the coaches show and the one at Wild Wing and all that kind of stuff too. And, so that was kind of a follow-up question. Like, you kind of alluded to it of like, how rare it is for these jobs to open. Is it safe to say, like, this is your bread and butter? This is what you want to do on the college level, like the Division I FBS college level, and not, be a professional broadcaster for a pro league or something like that?
Yeah, I think so. Everybody tries not to pigeonhole themselves into an
Right.
area, but for me, I've really enjoyed this part of it.
Right.
Getting the chance to do multiple sports. You're doing it for a school. I don't work for the school, but you also kind of work for the school. There's got to be synergy between the property and the athletics department and the university too. And this is a unique place. I'll tell you what, guys, like from Dr. Marrero to Chris Davis to Cam Brown, the GM of our property, I've never seen anything like it as far as that connection, that synergy. So that's really cool. And that's something you always want to be a part of.
That's awesome. Yeah. Because, I mean, obviously, like, the role, like the only thing that's similar between those two roles, like the college one and, calling for a pro league, would obviously be the booth, right? That just the play-by-play aspect, but everything else, that like storytelling aspect, the variety of sports, like, that's just super interesting. So, Cody, I'll tag you in here. Anything about?
I just wanted to know what sort of content you are going to be most excited about bringing into Statesboro and Georgia Southern.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of ideas that I have that we'll eventually start to try to execute. We've done the flight reports. That's something they were already doing before. And I think, we've done that at a pretty high level so far during camp. We'll eventually start doing the podcasting again. That's some discussions behind the scenes right now to get that thing up and rolling. But I mean, there's been a lot of things that I've done or I've wanted to do that maybe we couldn't execute at my previous place that I feel like we can get done here. They do have good resources. They have great people working on the GATA production side. The students are amazing as well. And that allows you to do more and more. So I don't want to play spoiler at all, but we'll have some really cool things coming. And there's so many people surrounding it that have their hands on it that want to do things at a high level, which makes you feel good about where you're at.
And then the other question I have is that it seems like the radio team is almost completely new. I know Big Frank's changing his role from on-field to analyst with you during the game. So do you want to go ahead and kind of introduce, everybody? I know that's you and Big Frank, but there's also a new on-field reporter. Do you want to just kind of go ahead and go into all that and say who's all going to be the new, I guess, radio team for the football game?
Sure. Yeah. Big Frank will be up there as the analyst. Looking forward to working with him. Known of him for a while. I believe I met him whenever they came to New Mexico State in 2000. Gosh, I think it was 18, I believe was the time when they came to Aggie Memorial Stadium. So I believe I met Frank, but him and I have talked a lot these last couple of weeks. And part of my interview process when I was on campus, I met with Frank for lunch before I flew out. So I got to spend some time with him then.
Yeah, I was going to ask that because the chemistry has to be there, right? Just like the players on the field, like a quarterback, a wide receiver. Yeah.
It does. And people have asked, are you guys going to do a mock broadcast? We're not. I think, the biggest thing, it's kind of hard to do that. The biggest thing is just developing that chemistry over time. Him knowing when he jumps in, me knowing when I need to get out of the way, things like that. And I'm not imagining any sort of issues with chemistry, even from snap one of day one. I think we'll be fine with that. And then Jeff Roberts is going to be on the sidelines. Looking forward to that. Jeff, I've actually known for a while. It's funny because whenever I got offered the job, we were talking about the whole team. And Cam, the GM, had mentioned about Jeff Roberts. And I know Jeff from Jeff's college days. Jeff was a student at Central Michigan. And one of the things I love to do is help young broadcasters. So Jeff reached out to me asking for some advice, a critique of his tape. And we developed a connection back then. And I knew that he was in the Savannah TV market. And it just so happens now he's going to be part of the radio network crew. So Jeff and I got to meet officially, like face to face, early on in camp. And he's been out at a lot of practices, and he's been around, even though he lives in Savannah. But I've known Jeff going back to his days at Central Michigan. So
Super cool.
it's a really good crew. It's a lot of people that care about the product that we're going to put out. And I know it's a new crew in many regards, with Frank even moving roles. Hopefully, it's something fans will still like the sound of and still appreciate the hard work and effort that gets put into it.
Gotcha. And you had mentioned that you did TV as well, right, at New Mexico State. So you did the ESPN Plus broadcast for him. Is that correct?
I basically got to the point where I was able to make my own schedule. So for football, I was doing the home games on ESPN Plus. But if it was a national TV game at home, which we had a lot of those because of the Conference USA midweek October deal, then I would slide over to radio and do the play-by-play. And then I did the entire road football schedule on radio. So I had a really unique setup, always done the coaches show there. And then the other sports, I was doing TV radio sprinkled in, but I was getting a taste of both. And you always get the question too, well, how do you call a game on radio? And then how do you call a game on TV?
There's
differences,
right? Yeah.
Completely different.
Yeah.
And I think I have that down pat because I was doing a TV game on a Friday night, a radio game on a Saturday, back to TV on a Sunday often. I was flipping back and forth. So you got to get in a mindset of, okay, we're on radio today. We have to be as descriptive as possible, or we're on TV today. Let's pull back.
Right.
And I don't have a preference. I don't like one over the other. Both are enjoyable for me.
Got it.
But with radio, you can kind of drive the boat a little bit more. TV's picture driven. The director and the producer are kind of guiding the ship, and you're following along.
Got it. I only have one more question on kind of this segment, and then I want to transition over and to talking ball, because we are recording this on August 22nd. There was a scrimmage that happened this morning. You obviously were there. Would love to pick your brain about that. I know Cody has a bunch of questions about the team as we gear up to the season, but kind of tying a bow on like your background and all that, kind of a follow-up to what Cody was talking about earlier, but like, how do you want to be like remembered here? Like, right. I mean, we've had three other people, right? Like we've changed hands of the broadcast booth less than we've changed hands of the head football coach, right, at Georgia Southern. So you have Nate Hirsch, you had Chris Blair, you have Danny Reed, and now yourself. What do you want like your legacy to be? What do you want people to look back on and say, this was this own guy's kind of flavor?
I think more than anything, you control what you can control and you be yourself. Nobody's asking me to be Danny or Nate or Chris. They just want me to be me. I got hired for a reason, and you have to have confidence in that. There's no ego, but there has to be confidence that you're here for a reason, right? And the reason I'm here is because I'm going to work hard. I'm going to prepare at a high level and try my best to put out the best product possible. And the care level has to be super high, because the care level is super high from the fan base. And I've seen that. I understand that. I know how much people want this place to win at a high level. And I'll want the same. You'll hear the same passion in my voice that, somebody has sitting in the stands, right? You have to control that a little bit, but the hard work, the preparation, the passion, I hope that bleeds through. I hope fans recognize that right away from broadcast one, show one, throughout the entire season. The remembering part, I think if you just put your head down and work, that kind of takes care of itself. I never really thought about that when I was at New Mexico State until I finished my last day. And it was kind of like, okay, how am I going to be remembered here? And in that case, I know 100% I left that place way better than when I found it. Yep. And, you want to make an impact wherever you're at, whatever you're doing, you want to make an impact. So I hope to make a large impact here, knowing the history of this place. And there's a strong legacy in that booth to uphold. And I'm firmly aware of that.
Awesome. Very cool. Cool. Well, yeah, let's talk ball, right? That's why we're all here. That game home opener against Charleston Southern will be here before we know it. So, Cody, you want to kick us off with questions?
Yeah, I think the fan base has two main concerns, or two parts of the team that we're going to be really concerned about and really focusing on, especially that Charleston Southern game. First being defense, and second being offensive line, with it being a completely new offensive line. What are your thoughts on the defense? Do they seem like they are ahead of the offense still at this point? Does the tackling and everything seem to be going pretty well, and the fundamentals seem to be there? Or does there seem to be any...
From what I've seen and from the feedback I've gotten from players and position coaches, what Coach Helton has talked about, everybody's raved about Mike Moots. And I don't have something to compare it to because I wasn't here last year, but everybody's really raved about Coach Moots and that style of play. They have really good personnel, it seems like, to fit that style of play. They have the right guys on that defense that can pressure the quarterback and post the numbers that Stephen F. Austin had a year ago under Mike Moots. So I think that's gone really well, and it's given the offense some great looks. Love the personnel on defense. There's a lot of veteran, older players, guys that have played a lot of football here, guys that have played a lot of football elsewhere. And then there's some younger players who have bright futures that are stepping up as well. So the defense has looked really good. I've been impressed. And then the offense, you talk about replacing 11 starters, and that sounds like a daunting task, but you're replacing it with a lot of guys who have played high-level football all over the country.
Yep.
And then, the quarterback situation's in a really good spot with a couple of veterans at the top, with Max and with Turner, two guys that have seen a lot. Max is in his 7th year now. Turner is in his 5th year collegiately. So you have veteran presences in that quarterback room as well to engineer the offense. And then having Coach Applin back for another year helps too, right? I mean, there's continuity there offensively between him and Coach Helton since they've been together from day one.
Yeah. Go ahead.
No, I was gonna switch over to the running back room. Has anybody kind of stood out as they can take over the RB1 role? Or does it seem to be more like a running back by committee so far during camp?
I think right now it could be by committee, but I'll tell you what, Teo Todd had a great scrimmage earlier today. And that might not be a name that a lot of fans are talking about. I know he's been in the program for a couple of years, but Coach Helton was also talking too about a thunder lightning situation there in the backfield. Gibbs had a good day. Jamarian Samuels had a good camp so far. So there's options in there. I love Ty Cummings. I know he's only a freshman, but he's going to be a special player. We'll see how much he plays right away because that running back room is pretty loaded. And you know what you're going to get with David Bedinga. The role's increasing, but I think he's proven that, he can shoulder some of the load. It doesn't look like right now you're going to have an O.J. Arnold who gets the bulk of the carries, at least early on, but you have a lot of options in that room, which makes you smile if you're a Georgia Southern fan. There's a lot of options where guys could step up. And if it has to be running back by committee, you have plenty of depth in that room.
So with the wide receivers, similar, seems to be a lot of depth, a lot of talent. To your point earlier, a lot of new faces, but guys that have played elsewhere, or at least, had been around P4 programs and things like that. Everybody knows Josh Dallas, but outside of him, who's kind of impressed you in the wide receiver room?
Alex Taylor's had a good camp, and he was at North Carolina with Max Johnson. Played a little bit at North Carolina, looking for a bigger role. I actually spoke to him the other day for an interview, and he brought up Camden Brown and getting a chance to speak to him. I guess late in summer workouts when Cam was around training, and he feels like this is a place that can jumpstart him to the next level, right? He was at North Carolina playing a little bit, but you have to get a lot of reps and a lot of film to get a chance to play at the next level. So he's had a good camp. And I do think that connection with Max Johnson at North Carolina previously has helped a lot. I think that's somebody Max has turned to and looked at because there's a lot of familiarity there. Andre Green Jr., who is at Virginia, had a really good start to camp. Ashton Hollins from Illinois had a couple of highlight reel catches the first couple of days. King Phillips has been steady. Jeremiah Ware has had some good moments. And then Zay Hilliard, another freshman, him and Cummings both, they both are making plays. And both rooms are loaded. So how do you find your way in there? But, they're pushing right now. Hilliard caught a long touchdown pass today, and he's got a body that doesn't look like he's a freshman. And there's plenty of weapons. Like I said, you're replacing 11 starters in offense, but it's not like you have a bunch of new guys. And we know Josh Dallas and what he can be. So there's a lot of options out there. And then at tight end,
Yep.
River Helms is healthy.
Yep.
Good.
Just
And
saw
I
that
saw
interview
River.
that you did
I
with him,
saw River Helms when he was at Western Kentucky and when he was healthy. And that dude is elite when he's healthy. They just haven't seen that here so far. JP McKell's been steady in camp. Jackson Long's a transfer from Georgia Tech. So they got good depth in that room. And Coach Reed's done a good job with that tight end room. So there's options offensively for Max Johnson, Turner Helton, Weston Bryan, those guys to throw to. And, there's plenty there offensively. And there's good synergy between the offense and Coach Applin right now.
Got it.
It seems like with as well as what you're saying the wide receivers and tight ends are doing, is it look like the offensive line is protecting Max Johnson pretty well during camp so far?
I think so. And, there's a lot of new faces in there, but also guys that have played football elsewhere. There is a lot of experience in that room. And that's just kind of what happens now in collegiate football. There's turnover year to year. Coach Langford is a really, really good position coach. He coaches the offensive line and handles the run game from the coordinator role as well. So there's a lot of good pieces in there. You look down at the roster and there's 7th-year guys, 6th-year guys, 4th-year guys. Typically, early on in camp, it's trying to find how does this all fit together? The puzzle pieces, where do they go? Who could play here if we got a plug and play? And obviously the run game's going to go as the offensive line goes, right? And same thing with Max and the other quarterbacks, Turner and Weston, they go as the offensive line goes. So it's a very important part of the offense, but it's also hard to gauge during camp too when you're going up against each other.
Mm-hmm.
Is the pass rush really good at times that maybe exposes the offensive line one day? Or is the offensive line really good one day and the pass rush isn't there? Where do you look at, right? Are we lacking our defense or an offense? So that's been cool to watch during camp so far is one unit's had their day and it's kind of going back and forth. Offense has a good day, defense has a good day, and they kind of flip. So you don't want one side to dominate. You kind of want that back and forth. And to me, that's gone on during camp.
Got it. What are you looking forward to the most from this season? Is it, watching certain players play? Is it certain big road games going up to Clemson, Houston coming to town? Like what, is there anything that you've, as you look through the schedule, kind of like circled on the calendar?
There's a lot for me right now. And I know this is coach speak, but this is true. I'm excited for game one because I'm excited to see the tailgating atmosphere. And everyone says there's nothing like a game day at Paulson. So I know comparing Charleston Southern to Clemson is way different, especially home game to road game, but I'm looking forward to game one and just seeing that. The Clemson thing's going to be cool. I've done games in big stadiums before in the SEC, Big 10, Big 12, a bunch of different conferences. Never done a game at Clemson, but looking forward to that. Game one is what I just can't wait for. And I think that's when it will really, really hit. It's already hit. I've been here for a couple of weeks, but trying to get to game day right now. And once you have a game day and hit the air for the first time and get those nerves out of the way and the anxiousness out of the way, then it's just what you've been doing your entire life and get to call football.
Are you going to try that first weekend, try to sneak out, or not, maybe not sneak out, but go and watch the yellow school buses come through and the Eagle Walk, and kind of, will you have time to try to go out and experience any of that? Or will you be too busy getting everything set up and getting ready for the game?
I should be out there all day. I think
Okay.
I'll have to set up the tailgate show and, everybody hears what happens on the air for those 3.5 hours of the game, but there's so much more that goes into it. My title is director of broadcasting, and there's a lot of moving parts here, which is good, right? I mean, the tailgate show, which goes into the countdown to kickoff show, we have one set of equipment outside on a stage, another set upstairs, trying to get sidelines going. So there's a lot of moving parts, but I'll be at the stadium all day, especially I would think 7 or 8 a.m. I would think, I mean, I'll have to find a rhythm. If I can set up the equipment at 4 a.m., I probably will. That's just how we're wired. But I'll be out there all day. My kid will be out there with me for a chunk of it, our 3-year-old who's looking forward to this. And I'll be around. I mean, those game days are crazy. And Obviously home game days are a little bit different, but there are a lot of moving parts that we need to make sure are in place. I'm definitely going from a basketball school to a football school. I don't
Yeah.
think there's any
Yeah.
question about that. I mean, I don't think you can look at that in this business, because when people ask me, what's your favorite sport to call? I truly do not have one sport that trumps everything else. Like, I'm not
Got
coming
it.
in here as a football guy. I love football, basketball, baseball, and I love the other sports too. I'm used to doing 7 sports. So,
Yeah.
I called the volleyball national championships for Division II and Division III the last couple of years, and I enjoyed that just as much as anything else I've done. So I wouldn't say like appeal, but I will say this, kind of going back to the whole process of everything. There were a lot of really good things about this place. The traditions play a large role, how much people care, but all of this is about fit.
Mhm.
And us broadcasters talk in this business all the time. It needs to be the right fit. If it's not the right fit, you're probably not going to get the job. It's also not going to work. And what they were looking for, I was able to bring to the table, basically. And then you sprinkle in Dr. Marrero's meeting with you on your visit. Chris Davis is part of the process, which almost never happens. The AD usually is not part of this process. It's not his employee, it's the properties.
Right.
But everybody cared so much, and this position meant something to them. I mean, I was just blown away from day one, and I just couldn't find anything bad. Is like, there's got to be something there, and there just wasn't. I mean, it was a place that you wanted to be, so everything kind of aligned and fit together.
I'm excited for him to experience his first Georgia Southern App State game at home, and with it being on Halloween, I think, and it's ERC 100, I think that's going to be a crazy night in general, regardless of what's going on with both teams.
The atmosphere will be
that will be a little bit wild. Yes.
Awesome.
No, I'm looking forward to that one. I mean, I think there's so many. I mean, for me, it's week to week, right?
Mhm.
Yeah.
Just trying to get through week 1, move on to week 2, first road game, and then, so on and so forth. And I think the first year is going to be so much of a blur. You're just trying your best. Like, what I'm trying to do right now is prepare in every way possible. You're getting ready for the team, but you're also getting the equipment ready, making sure everything's good to go. And there's just a lot of moving parts. So I know what's coming up on Halloween, but I'm trying not to look too far down the road.
Was there anybody in today's scrimmage that stood out that really just had a really great game and maybe may not have been in maybe the first two, but is maybe trying to work their way into that rotation and possible starting job?
Yeah, I don't know about moving up or starting or anything like that, but I mentioned Teo Todd earlier. Teo Todd had a big day today. He had a big day. He's had a good camp. And I was talking to Coach. We did a press conference after. I was talking to Coach about him. He just talked about his progress. Third-year guy, role's probably going to expand this year, but he had a big day. I'll say that. He ripped off a couple of long runs. He had another run where you couldn't tell if he was down or not, and he just kept on moving. They ruled him down around the 30-yard line, but he got to the end zone. He runs aggressively. He's not a huge guy, right? He's 5'8", 195, but he plays bigger than that. So he really impressed me. And then the freshmen, Cummings and Hilliard, they're really good freshmen, and they continue to improve during the course of camp. So it's hard to gauge too, because sometimes you're not playing the starters as much, right? I mean, the guys that need the reps are probably the younger guys. Probably they need the reps more than anybody else. But if you said one guy that really stood out today, it was Teo Todd. Good question. It's probably familiar names that everybody recognizes. Chance Gamble, Josh Dallas. They're the kind of people, and this is rare in collegiate athletics. Typically guys are so laser focused on what they're doing. And a guy like Chance or Josh can see what's happening on the outside a little bit more because they've been here, right? Camp's a little bit different for them, but Chance knows your name. I mean, he remembers your name. How you doing? Fist bump. Good to see you, Adam. That kind of stuff. And you don't get that everywhere, but you get that here. And you know how much Chance and Josh love this place. I mean, Josh Dallas, every time I interview him, I'm ready to run through a wall. I mean, that man can preach. And they love it here. They probably had plenty of options to go elsewhere, and they stayed here. And then Max Johnson carries himself with confidence. He looks like a veteran quarterback. He acts like a veteran quarterback, has full control of that huddle, that locker room. So that's cool to see as well. I've been impressed by all of them. David Badinga, what an impressive young man. I know he's academic all conference every year. And
yeah.
man, he's going to be a success in whatever he does after football is done. Really, really impressed by him. And the coaches have all been great. Coach Helton taking time out of his day when I was on my visit. It goes across the board. I mean, not just football, but other sports as well. But Coach Helton's been really good to me, and that comes as no surprise. Everybody that I talked to when I announced that I was taking the job, everyone that knew Coach Helton in one way, shape, or form, or knew somebody that knew him, said he is an elite human being. And that's been proven from day one for me.
And that helps, right? Because like, obviously you don't get to pick the head coach, but, having that relationship, you have a lot of different personalities across college football. So having someone that's not maybe as open and cordial, and things like that, I'm sure that, is a huge benefit to what you do.
It is. I've been lucky to work with some really good ones and ones that have been very accommodating, but we're going to see a lot of each other. Mondays, I'm going to see a lot of them. I'll have the TV show, the radio show, the press conference, and he needs to trust you. You need to have access to the program, but that starts with trust. And, a big reason why I came out here by myself for it's been almost 3 weeks. My family gets out here next week, but I told my wife, I was like, we're going to really rush into this if they come out here with me right away. And I was like, I need to go out there. I need to grind and I need to be at practice every single day because you need to earn the trust of the coaches. You just have to. It's part of it. They need to know that I'm on their side. I'm on their team. And that's a big part of this job. And I felt that was extremely important, not just for me to get acclimated and to understand what's going on and get a feel for the roster, the personnel, but also, be around. And over time, they'll know that you're their guy. So that takes time to get to.
Got it.
Is there anything else you want the fan base or Georgia Southern nation to know?
Yeah, I'm really excited. Just really excited to be here. Can't stop smiling. Super grateful for this opportunity. And I can't wait for September 5th. I can't wait for that week to really kick things off with Inside Georgia Southern football on the TV side and then Hail Southern Live at Wild Wing Cafe. So I hope folks come out and watch that show live, especially on the 31st. And we'll be out there until December. And there's a lot to be excited about. There's a lot of great things happening here. And you want to be at a place where things are trending up. And I'm grateful to be at a place like that.
Awesome. Well, Adam, thank you so much for your time. This has been awesome. And thank you for everything. Looking forward to hearing your calls in the booth and everything in between. And with that, we'll end this one. And as always, Cody, Hail Southern.
Hail Southern.
Man,